25 people here. So if you could just maybe you can drink a coffee or do something. In a few minutes time, I'll start. Okay, because there are 49 participants and we have 25. So maybe we shall wait for just a few more minutes. Thank you so much.
Morning, Cindy. Are you speaking? Because your mic is mute.
Hi, good morning. I'm not
Morning.
speaking yet.
Oh, because you're wearing mask. I thought
Yeah, oh,
you
sorry.
say
Yeah.
alright.
Okay. Yeah, because I've been coughing for 3 weeks, so
It's
I'm
okay,
wearing
it's
a
okay, it's okay.
mask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you started already because
No.
it looks like you are speaking from. Okay, okay. Alright.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Evelyn and Siu Ling. What we're doing is now our colleague is uploading the files into the section here. So once it's uploaded, we will let you know, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, good morning again. I'm just wondering, I think you can see my screen as well. If you're able to see these two files that Sujata has uploaded, these two Microsoft Excel files. It's in the chat box. Excel files are here. Please let us know. It can be downloaded. You. Okay, thank you so much, Evelyn. All right, hi, good morning again. Now we have 36 people in the room with us. Okay, so welcome again to our Microsoft Excel class. In this class, we'll be doing some exercise on formulas and functions. So I do understand from some feedback that we have colleagues, friends who are rather new to Excel and they're excited to come along to just learn. And we have friends who are many friends and colleagues who are very expert in using Excel. So in the beginning, I'll just like do some flashback on how to move the mouse around for the benefit of colleagues who have left or not touched Excel for a long time. Okay, so hi everyone. Okay, we'll start now. My name is Cindy and I'm from SCCM, from the Department of Computing. This is me. This is me. Okay. I'm doing part 1 of the training, followed by part 2, which will be continued by my colleague Sujata. Okay, or we call her Sue over here. All right. So we have about 9 to 9:05, a welcoming session, a hello session to everyone, and followed by about 45 minutes to 1 hour of introduction to formula and understanding conditional statement and logical operations. This is followed by a break. Okay. So there's a possibility our break may be slightly earlier or just slightly later, but we'll definitely do our best to end by 12 o'clock. So part 2, when Sujata takes over, she'll be doing on lookup and reference functions. In other words, formulas which are more funky and formulas which are more interesting. Okay. Now, if you're ever feeling stuck on a Friday morning or in our training, do not worry, do not be fear. We've got our virtual facilitator, which is Siti. Okay. Siti is here to answer questions because, as you know, I mean, most of us have been doing online teaching. So sometimes to get the training going more smooth, and when you post questions, someone else will do their best to answer them. Okay. Of course, if we miss out anything in any way, we will definitely get back to you. All right. But that's another thing. A lot of people may sometimes find it because I'm not sure our colleagues and friends are assessing this training through a phone, a tablet, a computer, a laptop with 1 or 2 monitors. So to make things a bit more comfortable and convenient, I will copy the function and formula into the chat box to ease, our candidates' stress of looking at the screen and typing, looking at the screen and typing. So you can just copy and paste the function into Microsoft Excel. Okay, so that will already speed up the training versus a physical one where everyone is looking at the screen and typing. So that's the difference over here. Okay. All right. So basically, we've got 2 very basic learning outcomes. We want you to be able to apply functions in Excel and to perform some simple calculations. All right. So what are the calculations? We will do in the practice later on. So do I have to be an Excel expert? Some emails that I've received. No, you don't have to be an Excel expert. Therefore, I'll just go through some basic moving around. Okay. And we already have existing Excel expert with us in this class. All right, so you don't have to be one. Just move along and enjoy the class. Yep. Okay, it's a very brief intro. Now let's start. Okay. So what we're gonna do is, let me just, if you can just open this file called formula_exercises, which is, there are only 2 files in my session. Formula, it starts with formula. Okay. Even if you're unable to open the file, because I think there are some people who are attending this from their phone, you can just watch first. Okay, so we've got 2 tabs, 2 sheets over here. Shortcuts and formula syntax. Shortcuts and formula syntax. Okay, if you've forgotten or if this is your first time, you can just put your mouse over shortcut and click to move from tab 1 to tab 2, formula syntax. What we're going to do is we're going to click on a plus sign here just to add new sheet. Okay, let me just repeat that process. We have we've got shortcut, formula syntax, and I click on plus. I have another sheet here, so I'm just going to type flashback. Okay. This is just going to be a quick flashback. So I'm going to zoom in. Over here, what we're seeing is these are all cells. As I'm clicking around, these are all cells. Okay. So when I click, my mouse is on this particular cell on the top left-hand corner. It says A1. When it says A1, it means I'm on location, column A, row number 1. Column A, row number 1. If I click on G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I'm on G1. Okay, it simply means that I'm on G1. And I'm going to click back on A1. So I'm just going to type name, enter, age. I'm just typing this now. This is how you can type in Microsoft Excel, okay? And if it's at some point, if you want to resize, just put your mouse over to resize. So this is a quick flashback. You can just put your mouse over in between these column headers, and you see a double hit arrow. You can resize. Or if you have like eyesight issues like me, you can zoom in or zoom out. Okay, so you can zoom in or zoom out. Basically, that's to just feel more comfortable after not touching Excel for several months or several years, to some colleagues that have reached out to me. All right, just a quick flashback. And whenever you want to delete something, just click on the particular cell, press delete. So I'm going to type again, okay? Or I'm just going to write add. I can go to something called a formula bar. I can go to a place called a formula bar and replace this label and type. I can go to a place called formula bar and type something else. So I'm going to change this width. Okay, so that's for flashback. That's for flashback on learning how to move around Microsoft Excel. Okay, so remember, you can always click on the cell. Number 1, click on the cell, go to formula bar and edit. Type whatever you need to type there. Okay, or I'm in C1, I can double click inside C1, double click. This is my new label. Double click and do that. Why are we doing this? Because from time to time, we are going to be typing or copying and pasting formulas into cells. So for someone who has not touched this for a long time, you may accidentally, click somewhere else. So don't worry, just press delete or press undo and copy and paste slowly. Okay? All right, so I'm just going to go back to shortcut here, the tab called shortcut. And we see here, if I would just scroll down, Go back to our syllabus today, okay? If I just scroll down, there are thousands, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of lines probably. All right, so I'm just scrolling using my mouse to scroll, 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 and scroll. So it's going to take a long time. Sometimes in our class, we have like 30, 50, 60 students, 100 over students. But sometimes you're dealing with 1,000, 2,000 students, right? Or 1,000, 2,000 customer list. So you may want to move around more quickly, or when you want to delete something, or you want to highlight something, you want to do this more efficiently. So I'm now at this PowerPoint slide, and you can try these several control shortcuts. There are many, many shortcuts out there, but I think maybe this may be a bit helpful for some of us who are scrolling through hundreds of lines and of selection. Okay? So the first one I'm going to do is control arrow followed by control shift arrow. What control arrow does is it will jump to the last cell in a data region in the direction of that arrow. Okay, this is followed by control shift arrow. It will select the last cell in a data region in the direction of the arrow, in the direction of your arrow. So let's try. So I'm going to Excel here. My file, formula exercise. Yeah, okay. So let me zoom in for a while. I think we may know some of these movies or books, okay? So if I'm going to click on the Wizard of Oz number 10, A10, I'm now clicking on A10, the Wizard of Oz. So I press Control on my keyboard, and I press right arrow. Excuse me for coughing. Is that it will go to the last cell of my arrow direction. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll back and go back to Wizard of Oz. Then I'm going to press Control Shift and arrow. I press right arrow, Control Shift, right arrow. What it does is that it selects the entire row. So if it's row ABC, it's easy sometimes, but for people like me that zoom in a lot, so you have to scroll a little bit. So it helps in that selection when we want to see a certain number, certain name, certain figure, okay? I'm going back to cell A10. You can move around by typing in this name box here, A10. What I'm doing is I've moved my cursor to my name box over here, where my mouse is circling on the screen, and then I can just type A10. It will bring me to A10. So we can try Control plus Home or Control End. So we can press Control Home, means it will go back to the top A1, to the top cell. Okay, let me just go back to A10. The Wizard of Oz. Okay, I'm just going to type in the name box A10. Okay, then I'm going to press on my mouse, on my keyboard, sorry, Control End. Control End. This. So it will go to the last cell. Cell Q, 3,726. So if we're scrolling, it's a lot of scrolling work. Okay, so I want to go back to the first cell. I can press Control and press Home. All right, what is this in the slides here? It jumps the Home, or which is the top left, or N, which is the bottom right in the cell region. So you have top left or bottom right, because sometimes you want to just have a view of the entire sheet. Okay, last shortcut that we're going to go through today for now is Control Page Up or Page Down. So I'm going to formula exercise again. Okay. Again, I like the Wizard of Oz. This is an interesting story. Okay, control page up or page down. Control page up, nothing happens. Control page down. It has now shifted to formula syntax, to the next sheet, to the next worksheet. And just now we created one flashback, right? If you did not, it's okay, then just create one, yeah? Flash dance, no. Happy moments. There's flashback and then there's flash dance. Okay, then you can click control page down, control page down, or control page up, control page up, control page up. What am I doing? We've got 10, 20 tabs, right? You know, sometimes you do your documentation and you have so many tabs, so you have to scroll. If you don't want to use your mouse so much to reduce the movement of your arm, of course, our sitting position must be at a comfortable, height. Then you can just use your keyboard, okay? So you don't move so much. Your right shoulder don't move as much. Control, page down, 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 page up, page up, page up. Okay? So these are some simple shortcuts that we have. There are a lot of shortcuts in Microsoft Excel. Feel free to share any of them as well. All right? So I'm just going to go to formula syntax now. Formula syntax. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete these two extra worksheets that I've created. I'm going to delete these two extra worksheets that I've created so that we only see two worksheets to make it less confusing, okay? So I'm clicking on flashback. My mouse is at the word flashback, this worksheet. I'm going to right click and click delete. Because I think I don't need them anymore for this class, just to reduce the number of worksheets seen by our friends. Happy moments, right click on here, right click on the word happy moments, and I'm clicking delete. So now we're left with two worksheets. Okay, we're left with two worksheets. Oh, this is here. Now let me go back to the PowerPoint for a while. Now, sometimes we do see these common errors. This is just some extra notes on how we're going to fix these errors. Some of the errors we'll be fixing at the end later on, okay? So I think we see this quite often for people that always use Excel. For people that don't use as much, this is like a flashback. Oh, I used to see this, right? So when you see a lot of hashtag, it means the column is not wide enough to display the values. So this is how we can fix it. Drag or double click to increase the width. If we see name, hashtag name question mark, it means Excel does not recognize text in a formula. It means over here, we cannot put a text inside, all right? So what do? So make sure that the references are valid and spelled properly. So if you need quotation marks and colons and so on, please put them in. The next one will be value. Means that the formula has the wrong type of argument. You can check that the formula is not trying to perform the arithmetic operation. Divide by 0 exclamation. Formula is dividing by 0 or an empty cell. So sometimes we may have accidentally moved something about and it becomes empty. Hashtag ref means formula refers to a cell that is no longer valid. And hashtag NA means the formula cannot find a reference cell. Okay, so what we can do is we can check back all the references. At least now we know, oh, okay, what is this about? Is it a mathematic issue? Is it a string or a text issue? Is it because my formula is wrong or I just can't see them because it's too narrow? I need to increase the width. Okay, these are some common errors. So don't be afraid or get shocked when we see this. Next, I'll move into something called syntax. Okay, we are a very diverse group of people from different backgrounds. So I think Malaysian will be able to speak more than one language, right? We can speak our Bahasa Malaysia. Most of us can speak Bahasa Malaysia. If you're Malaysian, if not, then you can speak your own language. And then we can speak English, and some of us have our own mother tongue. So why am I saying this? Out of the many languages that you or I am able to speak, sometimes those languages will have a different syntax. So what we're seeing here is, someone may say, was I a movie? Watching was I a movie? In some language, this is how that sentence is formed, okay? So, but in a normal English language setting, it's more of, I was watching a movie. So the syntax is, I was watching a movie, which means how you put in the grammar, how you put in the subject, how you put in the object, and so on. In a language, in the construction of a sentence in a language. That is syntax from a linguistic perspective. Here, every language will have an underlying structure on how that sentence should be built. Okay? So syntax is the law of language that determines the word of order and basic sentence structure within the different languages. So that's what you do from a language perspective. Now, how about computing perspective? So you see different computer languages. You see CSS, you see C++, you see Python, you see Java, you see JavaScript. So all these languages have their own syntax rules. Syntax rules, okay? So syntax rules are the guidelines and convention that govern the structure and formatting of code. So it's the guideline that we follow when we want to when we want to communicate with Excel. It's the guideline that we follow when we want to communicate with C++. It's the guideline that we follow when we want to communicate with certain platform so that it will perform what we want it to do. All right. So what are we doing today? We're using Excel. So there'll be a way to write, to communicate with Excel, to tell them what to do. And it may not be in the most friendly form, but once we understand it, we can put in the right values or the right argument. So what we're seeing now is something called match. Okay. That's my mouse. This is called match. What is match? Match is the function name. We may have seen things like sum, average, mean, median, mode, some of these other functions in the basic Excel. All right. So this is a function name, and what the function name does is it tells Excel, okay, Excel, now I put match, so you do matching. What type of operations you're about to perform? So there's like more than 500 functions in Excel. All right. So fun fact here. So all these functions need not be capital letters. Okay, they are not case sensitive. They are not. However, when we type for class, sometimes I may type capital letters just so that students can differentiate. Oh, okay, this is a function. All right, just for the convenience of differentiating. So basic arithmetic and basic logical operations, like plus two cells together, divide. When we divide the cells, when you want to say a cell is greater than another cell, when a cell is equal to another cell, you don't really have to put in the function name. Why? Because it's our basic operations. Okay, but I'm aware that there are function names available. So now we'll look into something called argument. Okay, so argument is when you have, when you want to tell it what to do. Okay, so over here, we've got three arguments. We've got three arguments. That means what is the condition to satisfy, right? Type yes if student phone number is available. Otherwise, return as no if student did not put in their phone numbers. So this is a condition. So over here, these are arguments which will vary by function and provide Excel with the information needed so that it can evaluate the result. So note that if it's a square bracket, it's a square bracket. This is optional, okay? So when you type in Excel, sometimes you have extra tips coming out. So you can look at the tips that's appearing and type according to the tips, or you can ignore, because most of the time, square brackets are not mandatory. They are optional arguments. Optional arguments. Okay? So, to recap, a formula is made up of function in front followed by arguments. Function followed by arguments. What's in the argument? The condition to be satisfied. Okay? Now, that's it. Some functions don't need arguments. Some functions don't need argument, and they're good to go by itself. Like this row, column, today, and now. Okay? So we will do one simple exercise on a function that does not require any argument. Okay? All right. So I'm going to end show for here, and we'll move on to Microsoft Excel file. What file are we opening again? We're opening the same file called formula exercise. The same file called formula exercise. Okay. And you will see, so I'm just going to zoom in, yeah, for people that are using a smaller device. Name, street address, city, state, zip, birth date, birth year, telephone, area code, email, username. Okay. Okay. So over here, we've got birth year. So this can be our student's name or client's name and so on. Birth date and birth year. So we talk about, hey, some functions we don't need to put in argument, right? So for this, we can just type, I click G2. I'm going to click on G2, click, and I'm going to type equals to year, open bracket, F2. Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste that function here into our chat now. So what I'm doing is in our chat box, you can see there's the formula. So you copy from equal sign onwards. Copy from equal sign onwards and then paste inside here. So it saves our effort of, zoom in, zoom out and do all these things. Okay. So what it does is that it will tell us, oh, that this particular person is born in year 1999, because maybe later on you want to know, okay, anyone born after year 1999, fill up form A. Before 1999, don't do anything. Later on, maybe you want to do that. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing here, equals to YEAR. Then now I'm typing YEAR, open bracket, F3. Why am I doing F3? I'm doing F3. I think I can hear my voice. Okay. I can hear my voice. Okay, now, okay, ready. I'm doing F3 because we want to find out F3. Okay, just now was F2. So again, a bit of flashback to some people. Oh, I can't view participant. Okay, never mind. So what we can do is we can just autofill from here onwards. Okay, so I'm clicking on G3, and you see my cursor. Let me zoom in here. G3. I'm clicking on G3. Let me just put a different color. G3. And you see a box here. So I'm just going to do something called autofill. Maybe very familiar for some of us here. Again, for people who have left this, you shall move your cursor to the bottom corner. Okay, I'm now new. Now you see a fat cross, right? Move to the bottom corner where you see a T of a very thin hairline T, and I'm just going to double click. When I double click, it will autofill for me. Okay? All right. I suddenly realized this year's. Okay. All right. So it will autofill and you don't have to do every single cell. The next thing we want to do is area code. All right. So we know, so again, this is taken from an existing course syllabus. So we have got different area codes that signifies the staff or student or customer is from a different area. Okay, or maybe you just want to know that prefix in front, or there are some reasons, or zip code or postcode sometimes. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 numbers over here. So let's say you only want to know the first 3 numbers to know the area code. What we can do is, we can do this. I'm just going to copy my function and put it here. I type left, open bracket, H2. Let's say I just do H2. Let me copy this and paste it into our chat. Okay. Okay, so I will type 2 formulas in the chat box. When I type H2, I just type H2, enter, I get 6. Why? Because the first number is 6. So I'm going to do the same thing. Equals to left, H3, then I get 5. But what we want is actually the first 3 numbers. Let's say we want the first 3 numbers. So we can do left, comma, H2, 3. So we can do this, left, comma, H2, 3. So the difference between 618 and 5 is, for 618, cell number I2, maybe I put here. Now I can show formula bigger. Cell I2 is using this formula. It will count from left the first 3 digits. From the left, the first 3 digits, that's 1, 2, 3. That means you have 618. If I don't put a comma 3, I will just put left H2. It will just give me number 5. It will just give me number 5 if I don't put 3 or 4 or 5. So with this, now we know, okay, if I have a string of characters or numbers, I can choose which one I want. So now we can apply it in another scenario. So what I'll do is, I'll click on cell I2 and then autofill. Then I3, autofill, it will fill up. Now we know area code. So perhaps later on we can find out, okay, you can even do a click on area code, click sort here, filter. Let's say you just want to look at area codes with 225. So 1, because we don't have so many data set here, right? 254, then you have that. Okay, select all. Let me just select all. So what is this? This is on using a function called left with very little argument. So now we're going to apply, okay, if I know how to do that already, what else can I do? I can come to username here and say, all right, maybe I want to do a column that I want to just know everyone's username. Or if students give us just their email, okay, the student ID, right? Normally students, if they give us that, I'm just saying, if they give us the ID like 013 1111, allied student.uw.edu.my. So sometimes if they give us this, then we go, now I have to copy and paste one by one student numbers, student ID. So we don't really have to do that if you just want certain numbers or certain string in front. Okay, so we can do this. Let me copy and paste into the chat box. Oops. Oh, sorry, is autofill okay already? Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. So I will use the first function here. Because this one must type quite a lot, right? So never mind. I just do this. I'm going to copy this one, right-click copy, and then go to username, K2. I can double-click inside the cell, double-click inside the cell, or if I click on K2, I can move my mouse to formula bar. Move my mouse to formula bar, click, right-click, paste. Okay, I just pasted a bunch of argument and formula that looks like this. So now it's referring to J2. Why J2? Because J2 is Jennifer J McGrath99@gmail.com. I want to just know the first few, the username only, or the student ID only. Enter. Okay. So now I get Jennifer J, put a highlight here, McGrath, 99 with the alias sign behind. Okay, so good. But then we say like, hey, I don't want that alias sign. So how? We add one more, which is in the chat, the second formula minus the alias sign, minus. So in this, I'm putting this formula now, the one with a -1, with a -1. Double click on K3, because I just like to double click because it's zoomed in. Double click on K3, and then I'm going to right click paste. Because I already copied, okay? Oh, sorry guys. Double click on K1, K2 better, K2 better, yeah? Double click on K2, because I refer to J2. Double click on K2 and put the new one. So the difference between the first and second one is the first one, so I'm deleting and adding again. Double click, right click, paste. The first one, it has Jennifer's name followed by the alias sign. Okay. The second one, the second formula with -1, what it does is that it will minus this alias out. So what it's saying is that start from left on cell J2, search for all the letters, for all the string until you find here, until you find alias. Okay? Then I have a -1 behind, right? Okay, you minus that back. Otherwise, you're seeing plus this alias sign. Okay? So what we're doing now is you can just copy that formula, paste it into K2, and put your mouse over this cell K2. Autofill is again when you move your cursor, your mouse, and then you see a very thin line. Perhaps I'll just go to Google Chrome now. I'll just go to Chrome to share some Microsoft Excel, different mouse. Okay. Excel cursor. Excel cursor. So I went to Microsoft Excel and I typed Excel cursor, and I click on image, and we're just going to look at one image over here. These are how the different cursors may look like. You have a fatter T, you have an arrow where you want to select, you have autofill cursor, which is a T, the thinnest line. And then you've got a resizing cursor, which is a double-headed arrow to resize. And you have the I-beam cursor, where it tells us now you can double-click and type something inside. Okay, you can double-click and type something inside. Just going to copy and see if I copy and paste the image here. If I'm able to do that. Yeah. So maybe, this cursor picture helps. Okay. All right. Thanks. Okay, finish. All right. We're done with the first file on formula syntax, understanding syntax, and using some functions. Okay. We shall move on. I'm going to close this file. I'm not saving it. But you can save them. And we're going to open the next file called conditional statement. Conditional statement exercise. You just open again, conditional statement. Conditional statement. If you missed this earlier, so there are two files over here. You can click on conditional statement. If you're seeing my screen in the chat box, I think this is conditional statement. You can download them. Okay? Yeah. May I know how to put a color at one particular cell by clicking a letter? By clicking A, it will turn to the color that we have customized earlier. Okay, I think our virtual facilitator will share the answers for this. All right, thank you so much. I'll put a like here. So once done, we will post the answer for you, okay? Okay. So now we are in conditional statement exercise. Sorry, let's just clear my throat for a while. Thank you so much. Yeah, I drank water already. Thanks. Because I think yeah, everyone is down with some form of a flu or a cough lately. Okay. So guys, this is the last file already. Okay. We're now at this called conditional statement. This is the Excel file that we'll be using. So I'm going back to Microsoft PowerPoint. All right. Don't worry, there are only 21 slides and we will finish them. Conditional statements. All right. So what is this? All conditional statements in Excel are based on simple if or then statement. So it's like in a daily scenario, okay? Sometimes we have a scenario number 1. If it's raining, then bring an umbrella. Okay, so if it rains, bring an umbrella. If it's sunny, bring sunglasses. All right? If sunny, bring sunglasses. All right. If sunny and somewhere in summer, let's skip work and go to the beach. Okay, so I think here is summer every day, but we can't go to the beach every day. I hope this will bring you back to some happy moments where you were at a beach, or holidaying somewhere with your family. Okay. So what is this? This is an if statement, if then statement that tells you if this condition is satisfied, do this. If it's not satisfied, then do something else. All right. So, so what is this? This is again a function in front. What is the function called? My mouse. If. And these all are the arguments. Okay, these all are the arguments. So again, this is the syntax. This is how they speak. If they're speaking Japanese, they will have the Japanese syntax. Okay, if they're speaking Telugu, they've got the Telugu syntax. All right. If they're speaking Vietnamese, they've got the Vietnamese syntax. So over here is Excel syntax. So maybe it takes some time for us to learn, to be very, very familiar with the syntax, to be an expert like some of our colleagues here today. Okay, or it just takes a bit more practice. Because you see, when you change platform, when you change language, the syntax sometimes change again. So if then logical test, value is true, value false, means what? Any test that results in either true or false. Okay, so if A1 equals to Google, do this. If B2 is less than 100, do this. This is value return if logical test is true. So what do you want them to do? You want to say yes? You want to say no? You want to say attendance bar? You want to say pay? You want to say block this student? All right, you want to say award? What is it? So if it's true, we do this. Otherwise, then we do that. So a scenario given here is we've got a simple chart with weather data. Okay, location A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It can be Malaysia, it can be Penang, Kuala Lumpur, Sabah, Sandakan, Tawau, Pahang, Perlis. All right, equals to if B2 is less than 0, then put yes. If B2 is not less than 0, put no. Okay, so let's see. If B2 is less or equal to 0, B2, okay, this is B2. B2 is 75. Is 75 more than 0? 75 is more than 0. So do you put yes or no? You put no. Because 75 is not less than 0. Okay? If B2 is less than 0. Okay. Wait. In this case, we're categorizing the freeze column as yes, if the temperature is equal or below 32, otherwise no. So over here, we've got a temperature, which is Fahrenheit and Celsius, okay? Never mind, let's start the exercise, then you will feel the formula, yeah? Okay, and so I'm going to open, sorry, I'm going to open my file over here. Okay. I think, let me just do another slide first, Maria, because we have the word precipitation here. Okay, we can do nested if statements. Nested if statement, why? Because I want to come to this slide for a while. So sometimes you have more than one condition. Okay, you have more than one condition. In other words, I explained in some previous video, it's like when we dream, in our dream, we dream that we are dreaming. Okay, so it's a nested scenario. So you dream that you wake up from the dream and then you really wake up. In other words, so over here, if B2 is less than 40 means when we do the exercise, maybe it will be clearer for some of us, okay? Right? If B2 is less than 40, climate equals to cold. Why climate equals to cold? Because I think 40 Fahrenheit is about 4 degrees, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, about 4 degrees. So it's cold. If temperature is more than 80 Fahrenheit, then we put hot. We put hot. So maybe I'll change the color of hot into red and cold into blue. I'll change this to blue for cold. If temperature is less than 40, type cold. So you see, is temperature less than 40? It is. 18 is less than 40. So type cold. Cold. Let me just change all to blue color. Okay. All right. Then if temperature is more than 80, type hot. So what I'm doing is change this into red. If temperature is more than 80, type hot, hot, hot. So what is this? This is the syntax, how it should be written. More than 80, okay, you should type hot. Mild, let me put maybe orange color. So if it's otherwise, type mild, mild. Otherwise, type mild. So we've got mild 80, because it must be more than 80, not equals to. Okay, so this is mild, this is mild. That means 81 only hot, 81 only hot. Okay, if 80 is still mild. So let's try. So let me do this for a while first, sorry. Precipitation, if some of us are trying to understand what this whole scenario is about, okay? When we watch, precipitation is the phenomenon where water, either it's rain or snow, sleet or hail, falls to the Earth's surface. Okay? So when we're watching rain falling, we're actually watching precipitation happening. Precipitation happening. So when there's water that drops onto the floor or ground, when you get very thick, when it's very thick, you can call it a snow. But maybe if it's lower, you can call it rain. But of course, there are different characteristics to differentiate them. So what I just want to say here is that at what temperature does it start to snow? At 32 Fahrenheit or 0 degrees. Okay, but for science, people who are in the scientific industry, you will know it depends on atmospheric temperature and all the other things, right? Okay, so we say it starts to snow at 0 degrees or 32 Fahrenheit. So that is why you have things like precipitation over here. Precipitation over here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to do this. I'm going to open conditional statement. Okay. Conditional statement. There are only two files in part one, conditional statement. And over here, freeze, right? Okay. So I'm going to copy and paste here. So please go to freeze column, and type this or copy and paste this formula down. Okay. Is it not appearing? If G2 is greater than 32, type yes or no. Enter. Okay. What is this saying? Let's see G2. G2. G2 is this. So the formula says, if G2 is greater than 32, say yes, it's freezing. Okay. Otherwise, say no. Okay. So this is the formula. I'm going to autofill, and then you will get the results. So if it's 12, yes, it's freezing. If it's 23, yes, it's freezing. If it's 34, no, it's not freezing. Of course, you can change the condition. If you want to say above 40, freezing, then above 40, above 50, then above 50. But now we'll just, agree on some standard argument. Okay? So let's say if you're doing for other things, let's say you're coming up with students' grade, students' result, it's 79 and A minus or B plus, then you can change your condition. Okay, it's 50 pass or 60 pass. It's 59 fail or it's 51 pass. And you can change your condition. All right. So this is, we want to know what is freezing and what is not. And I'm aware that you've got this here, right? Okay, next we move on to the climate column. Under climate column, we can do this under climate column. You can copy and paste the formula. Climate. So I'm going to copy this. I go to G2, double click, and I'm copying and pasting the whole formula there. It says cold. Okay, it says cold. I do an autofill. So what this means is that, so just now we want to know whether is it freezing or not. Yes, it's freezing. No, it's not freezing. Now, remember we did this and we say, okay, if it's more than 40, you say it's less than 40, you say it's cold. More than 80 Fahrenheit, we say it's hot. Otherwise, somewhere in between, we say it's mild. You can have more than 3, right? So that's why we have cold, 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 cold. We've got mild and so on. So you see there's a filter button here. Then you can choose. You just want to look at the cold ones. Okay? Or you want to view all. Now, I'm aware that there's an error. I'm aware that there's an error here. So maybe I'll just put this a light green color to let everyone know, yes, there's an error here. Later, we're going to try to identify the errors. All right? Next, we move on to the precipitation column. Precipitation column. Precipitation column is this. Okay, so let me paste this here. So what we're seeing is that I've not pasted. If I copy and I paste. Precipitation none. Okay, precipitation none. And I'm going to autofill this. So what is it saying? Okay, if I2 equals to yes, let's look at I2. Okay, if I2 equals to yes. H2 is more than 0. H2 is more than 0. Type snow. Okay, but is so if you look at this condition, right? I2 must be yes, our I2 is no. Is H2 more than 0? Our H2 is more than 0. Type snow. We cannot type snow. It's not going to show snow because it's not more than 0. Okay, so that's why it will show none. It will show none. Now, let's look at another condition where it's satisfied. This one. This one, huh? So let's look at here. Yeah. Got problem. Wait, it still appears without any number. How about those columns without any number and data? Okay. This one, we will use error checking. We'll use error checking. Yeah. We have another function coming up. You're right. We'll use error checking. Okay. So we have another one called missing data column and error checking. Yeah. Okay. So where are we now? Okay. All right. Let me see. Okay, now the next one. If I3 equals to no and H3 is more than 0, I3 equals to no, so it's yes, okay? And H3 is more than 0, put in rain. So what they're saying is that if you're not freezing, okay? And your precipitation is more than 0. That means you're not freezing, somehow got water. Not freezing, got water means what? Means it's precipitation are not water, means there's something there. So you can put snow, okay? Because when the water falls to the ground, when you have something, here is 10.9 mm. 10.9 mm is about 1 cm, right? So over here, they can say maybe it's snow over here. Okay, and then otherwise put in as none. So it is not freezing. Let's just look at this one. It's not freezing. Maybe I move slightly faster already, yeah, because got part 2 coming. Not freezing, and there's no precipitation, and it's cold. Never mind. Then we just say none. Okay, not freezing and no precipitation. Then we just say none. Okay, let's move to the next one. So I will unhighlight all this. After condition missing data, then we're done already. Okay, condition. Condition. So at the condition column, so I'm just recopying and pasting here, you know, to ease the viewing, because if I just show from Microsoft Excel, right, maybe some people cannot see. So double click, I'm going to L2, copy and paste the formula, press enter. What's happening is, let me just uncolor all this. What's happening is that it is giving us the condition to let us know whether this is dry, wet, dry, or something else. Okay, so we are aware of this later, because you know why? Sometimes when we key in data, right, we can't help it. Not to say we can't help it, but sometimes there will just be some errors somewhere. Okay, so we'll do another function to highlight those errors for us. Then we can go back and check, hey, what really happened? All right, so here condition is this. We're using a combination, right? If K2 is snow, yeah, K2. Sorry. If K2 is snow, then or K2 equals to rain, or K2 equals to rain, then put dry. Okay, if K2 is snow or rain, then put dry. Then put wet, sorry, then put wet. Otherwise, put dry. So K2 is snow. You see, when K2 is rain, we put wet. When it is snow, we put wet. Otherwise, it is dry. Okay, otherwise it is dry. So as I'm explaining here, I'm aware that some of us can just follow this comfortably. Otherwise, if you're wondering why this is happening, this is how it is written. This is how the language works. Okay, we do the function first, followed by the arguments, and we have to put the argument in this manner. Okay, let me just move on to number 5. Now we're going to go back to freeze column. Let me just undo these highlights. Let's just go back to freeze column. Go back to freeze column, and we can type this if error. Freeze column. Back to freeze. Okay. And can do if error. If G2 is less than 32, put yes or no, otherwise put other. So we can put this. Now, I want you to notice, right, the NA just now, may I put in yellow color? Once I change into this formula, and I'm going to autofill here, it has changed to other. Just now, it was NA. So what this formula is telling us is, all right, if G2 is less than 32, you can write yes or no. Otherwise, if you don't have that 32, put in other. Why? So that you don't get this funny this like you know, this kind of signs which may be uncomfortable. All right, that which may be uncomfortable. So at least now you know other. Oh, there's something else there. So you can come here. You see, there's a filter column here. So you can come here. When I zoom in, it doesn't work. Click, and then you see no other yes. So if you click on other, now we know, oh, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 rows which falls under the category of others. All right, so you can do something about it. You can go back and check with the station manager and so on and say, hey, why is this other, did we type in a wrong figure or did something else happen? So it's to highlight to us. All right, okay. Now we can do this. Go back to climate column and do this as well. So I'm going to show all. Now you can go back to climate column. And do the same thing. Okay? We are now using this if error function. We're using this if error function. If I go back to the PowerPoint slide, what we're doing here is, what we have done was, we did something called nested argument. So you can use and or statements. So over here, and statement means two conditions must be satisfied. Okay, so if D2 equals to yes, and C2 is more than 0, put no. Okay, label it as no. If D2 is no, and, see and here? It works backwards, then you go and. C2 is more than 0, label as rain. Otherwise, label it as none. Label it as none. Okay, so this is how they speak. This is and. Both conditions must be satisfied. Now this one is or, okay? So if F2 equals to rain or F2 equals to snow, label it as wet. How do you know where to put or? You put in front. Okay, F2 equals to rain or F2 is snow, put wet. So F2 is rain or snow, label as wet. All right? Okay. If error statement is a tool to eliminate annoying error messages. So you get all those funny messages and we want to present in a report, or we want to trace, sometimes you want to do traceability, we want to find out what's wrong. So when we get all these error messages, we want to find out what is wrong. Okay, so we can go back to do the corrective action, a physical corrective action. So if error, the argument is formula or value that may or may not result in an error, value returned in the case of an error. So what happens if there's an error? Okay, what happens if that's an error? Now these are all the is blank, is number, is error, is text, is even, is odd, is logical, is formula. These are all the built-in functions that tell us what to do if it's blank, if it's a number. Sometimes you want text. If it's a text, sometimes you want something else. Or if you get an error, or if you get odd numbers, or if you get even numbers. All right. So, I think then we're done. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to, have we done the climate column? Missing column. Climate column, have we done? Yeah, I forgot if we've done climate column. Done it. You put other, yeah. Oops. Sorry. I paste but plus the instruction. So the if error, go back to climate column. Please go back to climate column. J2, and I'm copying and pasting that down. Then I'm doing an autofill now. So you see, this one has also become other. I'm going to click undo on my screen. Undo. Previously, it was an A, right? An A. Then after putting in the new formula, it becomes other. Okay? What it does is highlighting again. So you can do the same thing. Come here, click. Okay, where are the others? Then at least you can do something about it. Okay. I think 1 or 2 more functions then done. So perhaps you can try this on your own. I'm just aware of time. I copy and paste the formula here. Okay. Missing data column. I will do the last one is blank. Missing data column is blank. All right. I'll do the last one. Missing data column. I'll do is error. So I'm going back to conditional statement. In the missing data column, M2, I'm going to double click, copy and paste that formula down, and then autofill. So what it does is that it will either put a true or false. Okay, let's look at all the truths. It's true when you have some missing columns or some errors. What is this? This is a built-in function to help us identify, what if student forgot to type something? What if student did something wrong and you get all funny errors? So you use this function called is blank. Means either one. Means G2, either G2 is blank or G2 has an error, then it will be true or false. Okay, so it's true means got error lah. True, got error. False means no error. All right. So just let you know, I think later we will post some exercise for you to try out. Basically, that exercise is about converting students' marks, convert it to grades. Convert students' marks to grades. Okay, we'll put in Google Form, Google Drive. So what we have covered today is we have covered some flashback. My session with some flashback. We try to use some shortcut keys, understanding some common errors and how to fix them, understand what is syntax, understanding what is syntax. I'm sorry, overshot by 10 minutes. Okay, understanding function, then learning if statements, and that is how Microsoft Excel speaks or understand it. You have to write in this manner. Okay, putting nested if statement means there's more than one condition to be satisfied. Understanding a case study on what precipitation is, how to identify when it's raining, when it's freezing, and temperature, cold or not. And lastly, we move on into fixing. If we get an error, it will notify us of that. Okay, thank you so much. We will take 10 or 15 minutes break. We will take a 15 minutes break. Thank you so much. Then we'll start with part 2 conducted by Miss Sujata. Okay. You can contact me or email me anytime to clarify any areas. Thank you. Thanks very much. Let's take a 15 minutes break. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Now I'm sitting. We want. Okay. Okay. So we're going to start our part 2 of Excel. Yeah. So in part 2, let me just walk through all of you. What are the things that we're going to do in part 2? So once I've explaining all the things that we're going to do, then I'm going to pass to Sue. Yeah. So in part 2, still formulas, yeah, more formulas lah compared to part 1. So in part 2, we're going to look into formulas and also function, yeah. So the first formulas and functions that we're going to look at is lookup and reference functions on how to look up values and all. So for lookups and reference functions, yeah, so we're going to look into how to names array, how to use V or H lookup. So V is for vertical lookup and H for horizontal lookup. So we're going to go through all of you on what is the difference between V and H. And then we're going to look into rows, column and columns. Yeah. And then next we're going to look into index and also match. So Sue will basically take you all for a demo on how to use the VLOOKUP. Then by using name arrays, yeah. So this particular arrays, yeah, it helps to simplify a lookup functions, either V or H lookup, if you use the same data array in the multiple formulas. Yeah, so this is basically how you're going to use the functions. Just to highlight, in Excel, yeah, if you want to use a formula, you have to start with equal. If you don't use equal, then you cannot use the functions. So then we're going to look into the row functions. Yeah, row functions able to return a row number of a given reference, while rows with S, yeah, functions return the number of rows in a given array or array formula. Yeah, so there's a difference between row and rows. Next, column. So we have two column and also columns. So the difference between these two, S and without S, column functions return the column number, yeah, of a given reference, while columns with S return the number of columns in a given array, yeah, or array formula, meaning more than one. So next, VLOOKUP. So these are the formulas. If you don't memorize, no worry. I think so we're going to paste the formulas in a meeting chat as well. So this is how the formula looks like. This is how you're going to use VLOOKUP. So what you're going to do is actually going to look up first look up for the values, then where you are looking for the lookup values, then it's going to look at the index, then only they are trying to find a match. Yeah, so these are the formulas that you're going to use for VLOOKUP. And H lookup is for horizontal. Yeah, similar functions but this different way. Yeah, how they look at is actually that we look at the values, yeah, from the table array, yeah, and then they're going to look into which row contains the data that you are looking for, and also then it based on the range is actually they're trying to match, yeah, the exact lookup values, either 0 or 1. So normally we use VLOOKUP and VLOOKUPs, or we use VLOOKUPs in grade. Yeah, if let's say you want to identify A, B, C, and D for that particular subjects, normally we use VLOOKUPs at the H or V. Yeah, so this is basically the two rules when you want to use VLOOKUP. Yeah, so normally lookup, then we look at the first column and then first row of the H lookup. Yeah. So then we're going to go for index. Yeah. So index functions, yeah, return the value of a specific cell within an array. So later on, you're going to try these index functions, how it works. After index, we go to match functions. Yeah. So match functions, it will return the positions of a specific value within a column or a row. Okay, so there's the difference between index and match. Index return the value of a specific cell. Match return the positions of specific values within a columns or a row. So this is match. Then we're going to use choose functions. Yeah, index, match, and then now choose functions. Choose here is basically function that allow you to select value, cell references, or functions to perform a list based on a given index number. Yeah. So the fun facts about choose functions, yeah, it should be able to list item. And the list item can include numbers, cell references, define names, formulas, or text. Okay. That's it. So those are the functions that we're going to share with you for within 1 hour 15 minutes. Yeah. Okay. So I hope you can follow through. Now I'll pass back to Sue. Thanks.
Hey guys, so I hope you can download part 2 of the lookup references. So that we actually shared that earlier at the beginning of the class. So we shared 3 files, 2 of which you've actually used in Cindy's session. And the third one, the file name is part2 _ lookup references. So that's the file we're going to be using now in this session. Yeah, so we you need to have that open with you. Let me just share it on my side. Okay, so this is the file that we'll be using in the session now. So there are a few tabs here. So I'll start with the first one, which is rows and column. And then we'll move on to products, invoice, fuzzy match, lookup, VLOOKUP, grades, report card, HLOOKUP, match index, two-way lookup, price checker, and finally we'll end with choose. Yeah, so as Siti mentioned, okay, we started off with the first example, which is a table array. So when do we use a table array? So if you look at the formula here, the table array is actually something that we, if you're familiar with programming, it's sort of like a variable that we use to represent a certain type of data that we have. So in this case, when we use a named array, what it's actually doing is instead of using a reference in our formula, we can use that particular named array to represent the range that you're working with. So if you look at this example here, we look up A1, which has a reference from A1 to D6 in the formula. We can actually have a named array to replace this range. Yeah, so instead of putting that range that sometimes, it's a bit too lengthy, we can replace it with a name, a relevant name. So how do we do that, or how do we give a name to a range or a certain cell or something that we have in our sheet or workbook? So for example, if you look at this tab, excuse me, the grades tab, we have score and we have grade. So for example, now if I want to give this entire table a name, as you can see here on my screen, I have this box, the name box over here. This box, if I put it anywhere else in any other cell, I click on any other cell, you can see the name changes. So now if I select this, I can actually replace or give it a name. For example, now I have grade list here. Maybe I want to call this marking grade, something like that. Yeah, then I press enter. So this is one way of actually doing it. You can just go to the cell, for example. What if I have some values here that I'm just creating a table here, populating with the values. Now I want to give this a name. random list, for example. So I type in the name, I press enter, and this entire range which starts from D2 up to F6. Now this entire range here has been given the name random list. So this is one way of actually naming your array. If you want to do it another way, you can actually go to the formulas tab. The formulas tab, you have the section called define name. You can also click on this and select or put in a name. I'll call this random list 2. And you can also set a scope. Now, the scope here means where you can use this particular variable. Is it going to this particular named array? Is it going to be only in this worksheet, or do you want to use it in the entire workbook? So here you can see we have all the different workbooks, worksheets that we have under this particular workbook. So you can choose for it to be used in a specific worksheet, or you can just leave it as the entire workbook. Yeah. And here you can actually see the actual reference, which is actually referencing the grade, the worksheet, which is grades followed by an exclamation, followed by the range that you have. Yeah. So once you're happy with this, you're happy with the name, you want it to be within this scope, and you know this is the correct range that you're looking at, which is from D2 to F6. From the grade sheet, you can click OK. Or if you have a different range that you're looking at, you just click on this button and then select the range that you want to work with. So once you've done that, you click OK. So what you can do is if you feel like you don't need it anymore or you want to get rid of it, you can always see all the named arrays in your sheet in this tab here by clicking on the name manager. If you click on the name manager, you'll have the whole list of items that have been named in your sheet. So you can manage it here, whether you want to delete it or you want to update it. You can do everything here by just selecting it. So these are all that I have in this gradebook, this particular workbook here. Okay, so that is on named array. So if you want to, instead of typing your range all the time and you want an easier way to do it, you can use this method to actually come up with a name that you can use in place of putting in a range. Instead of using a lengthy range, you can put in the named array. So we'll use this later when we work with the VLOOKUP formulas. Okay, so I'm going to delete that. Now I'm just going to go back to the first tab, which is the rows and columns tab. So I have some values here, which I actually, if you go to the formulas tab again and you click on show formulas, you can see that these numbers have been randomly generated. So I use the rand function to randomly generate values between 1 to 100. So that function works like this. You just type in rand between, and you can put whatever range you want. If you want it between 1 and 20, enter. Then you select where you want to have the population, maybe here. Okay, so then you'll get a table of values that basically just are randomly generated values that you can use for a demo like this, yeah? So in my example here, I have randomly generated values from 1 to 100. So here we're going to try to use some of the functions that we saw earlier and see what it returns. The row function, the rows function with an S, column, and columns with an S. Okay, so let's start off with row first. So I'll just go to this column E, and I'm going to type in row followed by an open and close bracket. Okay, I'm going to change this back to I'm going to remove the formulas now. So this is actually returning 1. Now, if I just drag this down, okay, what it's doing is it's returning the row of that particular line. Yeah, so if you look at this the first line, this is row number 1. This is row number 2. This is row number 3. This is row number 4. This is row number 8, and so on. So when do we use this kind of formulas? We don't generally use it on its own, but we use it together with some, in combination with some other formula. Yeah, it's not a standalone formula that we normally use unless your data set is really complex and you're trying to find out which row or which column you belong to. So row without the S would actually return the row in which that cell is currently at. So in this case, it's just, if you look at each line, it's just sending or returning the row of that particular line, okay, based on this row that you see on the left of your screen. Now let's look at columns, column without the S, COLUMN, open close bracket. Okay, now this is returning 6. Why? Because A is not 1. Column A is the first column. Column B is the second column. C, 3, D, 4, E, 5, and F is 6. So we are at column 6. So when you type in column, open close bracket, it's simply returning the column in which you're at that moment. Okay, so if I drag this way, G is 7, 8 for H, 9 for I, J is at 10, column number 10. Now, let's look at rows, for example. So when we work with rows, okay, so rows with the S, it's going to basically return an array or a set of values. Yeah, so you need to put in a range in this case. So when you type it out, it will be rows with an S followed by an array. So here I'm going to select the entire table from A1 to maybe I'll select A1 to C12, for example. Okay, now let me choose another range, rows. Sorry, I forgot the equal to sign. Okay. Now, if you look at this, it's returning 12 for both cases, right? So this, the range was from A1 to C12, and the other example was from A1 to E12. So why is it returning 12? What it's basically returning is the total number of rows that that particular range has. Yeah, so if you look at it, it's from A1 to C12. So that row, those rows are actually representing the rows 1 up to 12 for that particular range. Let's look at columns next. Okay, so columns then S. Okay, I'll take the same set of range for the first. Second one, I change it to okay, so this is returning 3 because it starts from A1 to C12. And this is returning 5. So basically, it's calculating the number of columns for that particular range that has been selected. So since the first example was from A1 to C12, which basically involves 3 columns, so you get 3 returned. In the second one, it's from A1 to E3. So it's returning 5 because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 columns from A to E. Yeah, so that's rows and columns basically. But then as I mentioned earlier, it's not normally used as standalone functions. It's normally used within other functions to return some sort of values that will later be processed together with the other formulas. Okay, so now let's look at the next tab, which is products. The products tab, the second tab in the worksheet. So here is where we're going to start off with the VLOOKUP function. So how we decide when to use VLOOKUP and when to use HLOOKUP, it's normally based on how your table is organized. So if the columns or your fields, your table fields are basically in the columns, yeah, your table fields are in the columns, then you can go for VLOOKUP. On the other hand, if your fields are on the row, your fields, for example, if code was in A1 and product was in A2 and price in A3, then the horizontal lookup would be the approach you should go for. Okay, so when it comes to VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, we look at how the table that you have is organized. So in this case, our tables, the columns are all within the fields are all within the columns. So we go ahead and use the VLOOKUP formula. So when we use VLOOKUP, we have the option of having the exact match, or we have the option of using the approximate match. So when do you use exact match is when you want an exact value returned, not the lookup will return exactly what you're looking for. And approximate is something that's closest to what you're looking for. So you know the value doesn't belong in the table, but you want something closest to it, then you may use approximate match. Approximate match is also something that we commonly use when we're working with ranges. For example, if you're looking at grades, which means like 100 to 80, and then assign a certain grade based on that, or different ranges that you have, then assign the grade based on whichever range you have. Then we may want to use an approximate match in our VLOOKUP. Yeah, so we look at those examples later on. So for exact match now, the formula that we use for that would be in this cell here, B7. We want to return the exact match for the value. We're going to search for A27, and we want it to return the price for A27. Okay, so let's look at how we can write the formula for this. Okay, let me just make this a bit bigger. Okay, so to start off with, okay, maybe should I give the formula first? Okay, so I'll just paste the formula for you guys first, then I'll explain. Okay, so this formula goes into B7. Yeah, this formula goes into B7. Okay, so equal to sign, start off with VLOOKUP. Okay, and the value that the first thing that goes in, if you look at the tooltip at the bottom here, lookup value followed by table array. So this is where if you have a table array and you want to give it a name, then it becomes a named array. So the table array can be replaced with the named array if you already have one. In this case, I'm not going to use a named array. I'm just going to type in the range. So you know how to do it with the range first. And then it's followed by the column index. So the column index is the value of the column in which you want to return. So right now, if you look at our table, we have three columns. We have the code, you have the product, and you have the price. So we want the third column to be returned to us. So in this case, we will put number 3 because we want the price returned to us, and price belongs to the third column. Yeah, so we start off by typing in the value that we want. In this case, it's A7, the value A27. That's the lookup value that we are looking for, A7, followed by the, 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 followed by the the table array. So in this case, it's going to be from A2 to C5. Okay, comma, followed by the column index. So the column index is the column in which you want the value returned. So in this case, we want the price returned. So it's the third column in my table. So I put number 3. Okay, so the final part here is, do you want it to return an exact match or an approximate match? So in this case, if it's an approximate match, then we may get like the value A2 is the first thing that's closest to A727. So that value may return 5, the price of 5. But in this case, the first example, you want to look at the exact match. So I'm going to just select false here and close the bracket because we want the exact match. Okay, so you can see when you press enter, this will return 75. If you look at the table, the value of A27 has a price of 75. Yeah, so that is the value we get returned. Now let's look at the second one. Okay, so this is the formula for this is the formula for this is the formula for B9. Formula for B9. Okay, so this is approximate match. So if you look at it, same thing, everything is exactly the same. VLOOKUP. We'll select what is the value you're searching for. So the value you're looking for is in cell A9. The table array is the same as what we had earlier. Select that table. And the column index you want to return is still the price. So it's number 3. And in this case, now we want an approximate match. Yeah, approximate match. So it's going to search for the first instance that's closest to the value that you're looking for. So in this case, it's going to be A27. So the first instance, if you look at the table, is actually A23. So let's see what we get in when we try out this formula. Yeah, so true, close bracket, enter. Yeah, so it's A27. The first instance that's closest to it is A2. Of course, the last value is different, but it will look for the first instance of something that's closest to the value you're searching for. So in this case, it returns 5 because it's an approximate match. Yeah, it's not the exact match. So that is the difference between using the true and the false. And normally we use the approximate match when we're working with ranges. So if it's not like grading system, for example, if you have a loan system that has a range of months, different months have different percentages of interest, for example, or if you're buying or shopping and different months have different ranges for discounts, then you may want to go for an approximate match. Okay, so now what if the VLOOKUP is not found? So let's look at this. So this value does not belong in the table. Okay, so let me give you the formula first. Okay, so this belongs in cell B11. Okay, so here, selecting cell A11. Oh, sorry, before that, we need to type in VLOOKUP. Open bracket. So I'm selecting the lookup value is at A11. And the table range is still the same from A2 to C5. Okay, and the value I want return is still from column 3. And this time I want an exact match. Okay, so this value doesn't belong in the table. Yeah, so it's returning this value, no value available. Yeah, so now I think earlier in Cindy's example, we had this problem as well where we had no value available. Cindy used its error to solve that problem. Here, we can use an if statement. So I'm just going to show you how to use an if statement to replace it with a message that's more user-friendly, that people understand. Because some people, if they're not very familiar with Excel, and you see this kind of hash followed by n/a, they may not understand what it means because it may be foreign to them. So you need to maybe replace it with some message that shows or identifies the purpose of this this particular word that appears in the error. So what we can do is we can put in a formula that displays a more user-friendly message. So the message that I have here is product code not found. Yeah, or you can put in any other message that you feel is suitable or appropriate. So this belongs in, just typing in the formula here, pasting the formula here. So this belongs in B13. Okay, so I'm just going to type it out, and as I type it out, I'll explain to you how it actually works. Okay, so we're starting off with an if statement. Yeah, so if is an A, which is referring to the NA error message that you received above. So if is an A, we look up A13, this value, from the table, our table array, select the table. Return the price. Okay, so I'm just going to put 0 here to put in the range of like, it's an this is going to be an approximate, an approximate match. Sorry, a true match. Then we close the bracket. Now here is where we type in the message. In the case where it's going to return an A. Yeah, so in this case, we type in product not, or product code not found. Then we continue with another formula. What we look up, again referencing A13, the same range that we are looking for, same table array, return the price, and then we put in an approximate. Sorry, exact match, sorry. The earlier one was approximate. So here we have the value that shows 45. C45 is actually listed. What if we change it to 346? Okay, so that's the message that you, when it tries to, you try to key in a product code that does not belong to the table, which is only, it only has 4 product codes at the moment. Anything apart from these 4, if you key in any other value, it's going to return this message. So this message is user defined. So you as the user, you can put in whatever message you want, anything that would actually be displayed if there's no value that's found from within the table that you have. Okay, so now what we're going to do next is we're going to apply all this into an invoice, which is the third tab that you see here. Okay, so we have the third tab here, and we're going to put in some of the formulas that we saw earlier and try to apply it to create a simple invoice. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to create a sort of like a data validation here to drop this, to have like a drop down here. So how you create this is you have to first select that column. Okay, so that column, and then you go to data. So this is our data tab, and in our data tab, we have get and transform data, queries and connections, data types, sort and filter, data tools and forecast. So data validation belongs to the data tools section here, and it's the one at the bottom here with the check and the no entry kind of sign. So you select that. Now, what you need to do is basically select list and select, when you select this button over here, you have to go to the products tab and select A2 to A5. Okay, so I've actually named this array over here to products code. So that's why when I select it, instead of showing me the range A2 to A5, it displays product codes because I've already named this particular range A2 to A5. Okay, so once you've done this, you click OK, then you will get the list of products here. Now, what we want is when we select this, automatically we should get the product item displayed over here, the product name, which is whether it's paper, lamp, desk, or pencil. So we're going to put in a formula to display this. Okay, so we're going to put in a formula to display this. I'm going to paste the formula first for you. Okay, so this formula belongs in B7. Okay, so this formula is the same formula which we used here in this section over here. Yeah, similar, not the same, but similar. We just have to make some changes to it. So what's going to happen is, if instead of displaying a message, I'm going to leave it blank if a certain product code that doesn't belong to the table is inputted into this particular invoice. Okay, so I'm just going to go back here and I'm just going to paste the codes here. So if is an A, we look up A7 is referring to this cell over here, A7 products. Okay, so why is it products exclamation? Because it's referring or it's referencing the products sheet. Yeah, because the values that we are getting now is from a different sheet. So if it's within the same sheet, then you can just start off with A2 to C5. So in this case, our table array is from another sheet. So you need to name or put in the name of the sheet it belongs to first, the name of the sheet followed by an exclamation mark. So that's a format of writing the formula. So the sheet name here is products, exclamation, and the range in which the table belongs to or resides in is from A2 to C15. Now, why do we have these dollar signs before the range? The reason is we are actually fixing the range. Without it, when I try to populate the other rows, it's going to basically move the table. So let me just show you, yeah. If I move this, if I remove this, I remove this, I remove this, I just put it as this. Press enter. Okay. Now, if I populate this, Okay, and then for example, you can see here now the range has changed, correct? Now it's A5 to C8, A5 to C8. If I go to the second row here now, it's A3 to C6, A3 to C6. So by having the dollar signs before the range, we are actually fixing the location. So we're fixing the column and the row. Yeah, we're fixing A is actually the dollar sign before the A, it's actually fixing the column. The dollar sign before the 2 is fixing the row. Here again, before the C, fixing the column, fixing the row. Okay, so you can sometimes choose in certain situations, you only want the row fixed, but the column can change. Then you can just put the dollar sign before the column, before the alphabet. You have to fix the column. But if you you want both, then of course you have to put the dollar sign before each value, whether it's the alphabet or the number. Yeah, so if it's before the number, then you're fixing the row. If it's before the column, then you're fixing, before the column, the alphabet, you're fixing the column. Yeah, so we put it back, and then I drag it down again. I change the value. So it's basically referencing the table now. Okay, so now this is actually, we have the first two parts of our invoice done. You have the code, you have the product. Now, next, what we want to do is we want to put in the unit cost. We want to put in the price, basically. So it's the exact formula as this. This is returning column 2 because it's the name of the item. For the unit cost, we need to return the price. That's what we saw earlier. So it's going to be 3. So it's the same formula, only replace the 2 with the 3. Let me just paste the formula for you. Okay, so this goes into C7. Okay, enter. Okay, so now you have the unit cost, you have the product that has been put into your invoice, and all this is using VLOOKUP, which has error checking capabilities. Yeah, so in this case, if you put in a value that doesn't belong, it's basically just going to be blank. But if you, for example, want a message displayed, or you want a dash, for example, if I put a dash there, for values that don't belong to or don't not in the list of in the table array, then you can get a dash, or depending on whatever message you want displayed, item, for example, item not found, that message will be displayed. Yeah, for now, I'm just leaving it blank because I don't want to have anything appear if there's no item or it's NA. Okay, so I'll just leave it as blank. Okay, so now we have this. The next thing we want to do is we want to put in a formula. Depending on what we key in as a quantity, we want it to be calculated for us, the total to be calculated for us. So here in this section, E7, I'm going to put in a formula that will multiply the quantity with the unit cost. So in the case where there's no item listed or no quantity listed in D7, for example, then it's just going to return, it's not going to return anything. If there is an item, then it's going to multiply those values. So we're going to use an if statement to do that. So I'll just type in, let me just remove this here in E7, yeah? Now, before I do that, let me just paste the code for all of you. Okay. So when I press enter, there's no item there because there's no quantity listed. So if I put the value 1 there, 15 appears. If I put I want 2, then it changes to 30. So then we populate this to the rest of the, we drag it down for the rest of the rows under this particular column. And if you key in a certain value, so it calculates it for us. Yeah. Now we've done that. We have to also put in formulas for our sum, which is the subtotal. And then we will put in a formula to calculate the tax as well. And then we'll put in a formula to calculate the total. Yeah, so for the sum, it's just a summation formula. So you can either use the auto sum, or you can just type in sum equals to formula in E15. Just a very simple sum formula. Sum, which is from E7 to E13. Okay. Then the next part is we're going to put in another formula which basically multiplies the sum with the text amount. So this, you can just select E15 times this. Okay, so 10% of 560 is 56. Then what we do is we put in another formula to add this plus this. Okay, so that gives us a total of all the items that we have in our invoice plus a 10% tax. Okay, so that is basically a simple invoice that you can generate using VLOOKUP with data that you have in a separate table, and you can just use that information to be populated in an invoice. Yeah, so that is this example. So the next one we're going to look at is fuzzy match lookup, which is the next step, the fourth tab in the or the fourth worksheet in the workbook. Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to put the discount amount in this particular table. Yeah, so why is it called fuzzy match lookup? It's because it's going to be approximate based on the range of values that we have in our table. So if you look at the table now, the order amount is within a certain range. So it's either 0 to 24.99, 25 to 49.99, 50 to 99.99, and anything above 100. So depending on the range of a certain order amount, the appropriate discount will be given. Okay, so we want to use a VLOOKUP to see what discount each order ID is going to be getting. Okay, so for this, we're going to use approximate match because the order amount works within a certain range. So depending on which range your order belongs to, then you'll get the applicable discount. Okay, so in this case, we're going to use VLOOKUP, but we're going to use approximate match instead of an exact match. So I'll just give you the formula first. Okay, so this goes in C2, and then you can drag it down to populate the rest of your table under C. Okay, so here the lookup value would be the lookup value is going to be the order amount. And the range that we're looking at is from F2 to G5. Okay, so the range is basically represented here by the F column. So basically, we're looking at only 2 items in the column. Yeah, so the E column is not included in this one. Okay, so since we are only looking at 2 columns, the column that we're going to return is the second column, which has the discount. So we put in number 2, and we use approximate match, which is true. Okay, so notice that I didn't actually use the dollar signs. Okay, wait, I think I typed my formula in the, isn't it selecting? And why is it going down here? No, it's not. Wait, just hold on to something. Okay, wait. Okay. Okay, so now I have this. I haven't put in the dollar signs before my range. So when I drag it down, you can see that I get a lot of NAs because the table is moving. See, the reference table is moving without the dollar sign. So we need to go back here before we populate the rest of the tables. We fix it again with the dollar signs to fix the. So this is called absolute referencing. Okay, so now you get everything populated, yeah, because your table is now referring to the correct table array. Okay, so this is when you have a range and you're assigning discounts based on that particular range. Okay, so that is it's also called as fuzzy match lookup, which is referring to when you do approximate matches. Okay, so more on VLOOKUP here. Okay, so let's look at this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you how to use this example using VLOOKUP. And later on, we'll do something similar to this, but using index and match, yeah, to get the same results. So index and match, in most cases, you can use it when you don't want to use a VLOOKUP. It does a similar function. Okay, so here, excuse me. So here we have a table. We have ID, first name, last name, salary. And what we're going to do is we want to create sort of like a table that returns, in this case, maybe based on the ID, the salary. And then maybe we'll look for the last name. Okay, so here I have ID and I have salary. And in this salary range, I'm going to put salary next to it, the cell G3. I'm going to put in a formula that's going to return the salary based on the ID that we keyed in. Okay, so I'll use a VLOOKUP. Let me just paste the formula for you first. Okay, so VLOOKUP G2 is referring to this cell over here that's just right on top. This cell here that's just right on top. And we are referring to A2 to D8, yeah, which is this table. Now for this, we don't have to use the absolute referencing because the formula is only residing in this cell, G3. So we don't need to do the absolute referencing in this situation, for example, yeah. So the absolute referencing, we do it if we have like, we're going to populate it in other cells, in many other cells, consecutive cells or other locations, then we do absolute referencing. So in this case, it's referring table A2 to D8. That's our table array. And it's going to return the fourth column, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth one is our salary. And it's false, which means that it's going to return an exact value. Okay, so when you run this, you'll see that Richard, which has the ID 79, he's the one that has a salary of 91,632. Now, the next thing we want to look at is the name. So for the name, we are going to use the VLOOKUP with the if we also check to see if the value is not available. So we're going to use the is and as well as we applied in the previous two examples. So the formula is going to be slightly longer because the last name, if it's not found, it's going to display the message not found. Okay, so formula for that, this one is, so this belongs in G5, sorry, not G5, 4. Is it 2? No, G4. Yeah, so you type the form, you paste the formula in G4. So it's similar to what we've been doing all along. It's just returning not found if the ID is not found. So in this case, we have Lopez, which has the ID of 79. If we change it to maybe 88, for example, then you get the message not found. But of course, salary, because we didn't use the is NA, any error correction for it, so it still displays this message. So if you want this to be fixed, then you can just use the if statement with the is NA function for it to return a certain message if the ID is not found. Okay, so that is another way of using VLOOKUP when you want to search for certain information that belongs in the table. Now let's look at the next tab, which is the grades tab. So this is just what I showed you earlier. We're not going to do any manipulation to it. So what you can do is, if you want, you can give it a name. So mine has a grade list name there. If you want, you can use that name. If not, you can come up with any name of your own. Just name it so we can put it in a formula so you can try it out. Instead of putting a range, you put a name instead. Yeah, so name your table array. Once you've named it, it becomes a named array. And then we go to the next step, which is the report card. Yeah, so in the report card, what we're going to do is, excuse me, we have 3 subjects there, and we're going to assign the grades for those subjects from the grading system that we have in the grades tab, the worksheet. Yeah, so here we're going to put in the formula for that. So if you don't have a named array, then you can just use the range as it is. If not, you can just type in the name, which is in my case, it's called grade list. Yeah. Okay, so let me just type it out. So the lookup value will be this. A bit bigger. Okay, we're searching for this. And okay, so I'll put in grade. See, as you type, you can see it appears. Yeah, so the different names I have there. So I'm going to select the first one, grade list. And I want it to return the second column, which contains the grade. And this is going to be true because it's a range. So anytime you work with ranges, then we use approximate match. Then you press enter. So this returns the grade. Now in the case where you don't have a named array, this is the value I'm searching for. I go to that table, I select it, I go back here. Now you see the name automatically appears there. That shows that it's from another sheet, report card worksheet, followed by the exclamation, and the range is from A2 to B6. And I want it to return the second column, and it's going to be an approximate match. True. Enter. Oops. $67. Accept it. E2. Enter. Create this. Because I have the name there. It 62. Why is it going up to 62? It's A2 until B6. I think that's it. That's the name. I'm not sure if you tried yours out with the range. It should work. I think mine is because I've already named my array, so I can't really use the range. Okay, so you can try replacing it on your own machines if you haven't named it with the range and see if it works. But it should have the worksheet name followed by the range because it's from a different worksheet. Okay, so once you've done that, you don't need to do the absolute referencing in this case because it's referring to that particular reference, which is from the range that you've actually selected when you named it. So then you get the range, the grades displayed such as this. So if you keep adding on, for example, if you add science, yeah, so it still returns the grade for you. So you can keep adding on and just populating for you to get the grade displayed. Okay, so what we've done so far when it comes to VLOOKUP has been vertical tables. So the next two examples I'm going to show you are using HLOOKUP, which is actually referring to the horizontal lookup. Yeah, so horizontal lookup, you notice now, if you look at these tables that we have now in HLOOKUP example 01, you can see that the headers, the table headers or the fields are basically on the column. Yeah, so when it's organized this way, when the table is organized this way, then you can go for the horizontal lookup. So in this case, we are going to use HLOOKUP for this example, where the formula is basically the same as VLOOKUP. It's just that the order or the arrangement is different compared to VLOOKUP. Yeah, so here equal to HLOOKUP. The reference value or the value that you're looking for is from this B7. So select B7. And then the range is from C2 to F3. And what do we want return? So based on the region, whether it's east, west, north, or south, we want the sales returned to us. So in this case, we type in 2 because the sales is on the second row. And then we want an exact match. So I'm going to use false for this case, yeah, because the values are all exact. So it returns 410. If I change this to west, for example, it returns 350. If I change this to east, it returns 200. Yeah, so the formula for this, let me just share it. Okay, so next, HLOOKUP, again, another example. So this is again a range of values with the table headers on the column. So we use HLOOKUP for this again. So here, based on the date that we have, we want to get the discount that's applicable during that period. Yeah. So you have 1st January, 1st April, 1st July, 1st October. So here in our D5, we'll type in the formula. H lookup. The reference that we're looking for is this, the searching value. The table is from C2 to F3. And we want the second, the rate return. So that's in the second row. So number 2. And this is going to be an approximate match because it is a range. Yeah, the dates are within a range. So we use true, enter. Here's the formula for this. Okay, so December 5th December returns 0.32. If I were to change this to 9 August, it's going to return 0.35. Yeah, within the range after 1st July onwards, but before 1st August. So it's within this range. Okay, so let's look at match index now. For match index, this is again similar to using VLOOKUP. So remember I told you we're going to use the same example. So we're going to use match first, then match index, and match and index together, yeah, to see the difference between the three. So let's try it out with match first to find the salary based on the ID. So we type in the formula that starts with the word match. Let me just share that first with you. So you can, if you don't want to use VLOOKUP, you can use match instead of a VLOOKUP, yeah? Okay, so here we have the value which is we are searching for, which is located in H2. And the table range is from B3, or the ID range, sorry, this we don't select the table range, we select only the ID column and followed by 0. So what this is returning to us is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's returning the location or the position of that ID in that particular column. So 53 is the 5th item of in that particular array. So it returns 5, or 53 is in position number 5. So it returns a value 5. Okay, now this is using match. This is using match. Now let's look at using the index formula. Okay, so index, now that we know that the position is number 5, we want the index for that number to be returned for us. Okay, so this formula goes in H4. Okay, so index E3 to E9 is referring to the salary column. And it's looking for the salary in position number 5, which is basically 5 is because we know that the position of the ID is in position number 5 under the ID column. Yeah, so it returns 53 ID. It belongs to Jessica Walker, and she has the salary of 58,339, and that value is returned here. Now, for this formula to be truly effective, we need to combine both the index and the match for it to return the value, instead of, you find the match first, then you replace it in the formula and so on. So we will actually combine both the formulas for it to return the salary. So when you combine it, this is how we write it. By combine the match and the index. Okay, so this goes in the next. So this is combination of match or index and match. Okay, so the formula for this goes like this. So the matching formula is the same as what we saw earlier, where you match H2, which is H2 is where the ID is residing in, and then you search for that ID in the ID column. Then with that value, you look for it in the salary column, which is from E3 to E9, and return that value. Yeah. So here we get 58,339. Okay, so we look up index match. You can choose which one you want to use depending on the your situation or the data that you're working with. Okay, so this is actually using a one-dimensional array. Let's look at a two-dimensional array. When you have both the you want to look for two items. You have the month and the maybe the flavor, in this case the flavor of the chocolate, and you want to find out the sales for that two items that you're looking at. Yeah, so we can use in this case we can use a two-way lookup, again using index and match. Okay, so first what we need to do is we need to have a matching formula for the chocolate and a matching formula for the month first, and then a matching formula for the flavor. And then we combine it in the sales formula within the index function itself. So let's do the match first, similar to what we did earlier. I'll just give you the formula first. Okay, so this goes into H. We're just doing this for testing purposes. So this goes into H2. This formula. Okay, so this is second item, correct? So then we put the next formula for the flavor. The next formula for the flavor. So this goes into H3. So we're just testing it out. You have to see. Then later we combine this. So H chocolate is the first, right? So you can see G3 is referring to this item that we have in chocolate. B1 to D3 is referring to that row that we're looking for. So B1 to D1, and we're looking for chocolate here. So it's returning chocolate belongs in the first column. Yeah. So now what we're going to do next is we're just going to try out one index first. We put in this index. We're going to find the index for the fab and the chocolate, which is residing in H2 and H3. So in our range from B2 to D13, B2 to D13, which is here to here, find me H2. H2 is actually referring to this formula. H2 will refer to the match formula that I have. So I don't have to retype the match formula in there because the formula is already written in H2. So I'll just reference H2, comma, H3. So basically H2, H3 is referring to the match formula that we have actually written there. Okay. Okay, so now this will return 217. So if you go to chocolate and you go to February, that's the value you get there, correct? This value, 217. So this is what we get here. So now for this to be effective, we can't have so many formulas lying everywhere. So you need to combine everything into one. So let's combine everything into one. I'll give you the formula first here before I put it in mind. Okay. So basically, it's what we saw earlier. You have the two matches to look for the month, and then to look for the flavor, and then you try to find that item based on its index within the table itself. Okay, so that returns the same value for us, 217. Yeah, so this is using a two-way lookup. by checking across to find the value for us. Okay, so index and match. Okay, so now let's look at the next step. Yeah, the price checker tab. Questions. We're going to look at this example here. So what we're going to do first is we're going to use data validation to select the product and the size, and then we're going to use a matching function to get the to identify the price for us. So here we're going to put the product we have. Here are the stocks and so on. So if you remember to do the data validation, you select this cell here, and then you go to data, and you go to the data tools section, select this, and then we select list, and we select the range. So this is the range we're looking at, and you click OK. So this gives us the list of products. We do the same thing for size. Select the cell C10, go to data validation, select list, select the source, enter, click OK. So this gives you the size. Now, based on the size, we're going to put in a formula to find the match. It's same as what we did earlier, the two-way lookup. In this case, we are just using the data validation to help us find the value. So what we're going to do is, this is a formula. We're going to use index and match, similar to what we did in the two-way lookup, yeah? So I'll just give you the formula first. Okay. Put in the formula here. Okay, so what it's doing first is it's going to match the whatever you have in B10. It's going to check against B3 to B7 and return the value of the position. And then it's going to check for the C10, which is the size from C2 to G2, which is this section over here, and return the position. So based on that position, index will use that location from the table of C3 to G7 and return the value. Yeah, so it's going to return the value based on that. So here now it's NA because I haven't selected the size. So let me put the size as small. So pants, you go to pants, you go to small, it's 25. If you go to medium, it's 26. If I change this to sweater, sweater medium is 32, and so on. Yeah, so you can apply, this is one way it can be applied as well. Okay. Okay, so then let's look at the last step here. Choose. Okay, so choose here, it allows us to, this is some IMDb ratings for movies from 2016 to, based on the genres there, 2016 to 2018. And here we can put in a selected year, and based on that, it will select the appropriate formula, do the appropriate calculation for us. Okay, so for year, we're going to, again, you do data validation to select the year. So go to data tools and select data validation. And we're going to select list. And our source is going to be from here. Click OK. So that gives you the year. Now for calculation, you already have the formula there, I think. But how it's done is here we select list, but instead of selecting average, min, max, this was typed in. So you can type this in actually. Instead of selecting it from your list, you can just put average, min, comma, Okay, so that will give the list for us for those values. So it wasn't selected from a table because the list is very short. So you can type it in this way as well if you have shorter lists. Okay, so now here we are using choose and max to actually find the formula for us. So when we do the choosing and the when we try to find the formula, we basically need to identify or use values to represent average, min, and max. Yeah, so we're going to put in a formula on the I section here, I5, and the formula will look something like this. To assign a value to average, a value to max, and a value to min. Okay, so I think I put my order is a bit wrong. Yeah, let me just go back to data validation. Okay, so I'm going to put in the formula here. Okay, let me just send the formula to all of you first. Okay, so this is just assigning a value, 1 to average, 2 to max, 3 to minimum. Okay, so now okay, so what we're going to do next is I'm going to show you how to use choose first. So what it's going to do is like this. Let me just put the formula down here. Okay, this is just one formula for now, yeah? And we're putting this formula just for testing in this section here. Maybe in H11. Okay, so this is basically what it's doing is choose one. That means it's average, and it's selecting, it's putting in a formula for all the 3 columns that we have from 2016, 2017, and 2018. Yeah, so it's going to choose based on the year you select. It will choose the column and return the average value for that particular column. Okay, so this is the formula for average. Now, what we need to do is we need to also include one that will actually match the year that we're actually selecting, which is from H4, in this case, H4. Yeah, the year is in H4. Yeah, H4. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put another shorter formula here that will incorporate the choose with the match. Okay, let me just send this to you. So this goes, the formula that I'm just sending you now, this goes just below this, H12, just for testing purposes. Okay, so what this is doing is, depending on the year you have in H4, it will select the year from C3 to E3 and return the value. Then from there, what it's going to do is it's going to calculate the average value for you. Okay, so now we have to repeat this step for minimum and maximum. We have to repeat this formula that we have here for minimum and maximum and put it in a choose function. And this choose function will decide which formula to use depending on the value that we have here in the if statement that I sent to you. This if statement, if it's average and so on. So the if statement, I didn't put it in mind. Let me just copy the formula first. This formula goes here in I5. So average is 1, max is 2, min is 3. So now the lengthiest formula that we have for this class is coming out, the longest formula. So I'm going to copy that into the chat. Okay, so this is the formula that will decide based on whatever value that is in I5, whether it's average for 1, max 2. Depending on this value, it will decide what sort of formula to use and to return. Okay, so depending on what you have here. Okay, so this formula, the lengthy one that I just sent to you, is a formula that we put here. Okay. Okay, so now this is calculating the average, right? So we need this to change depending on what is in our H5. Okay, so that will change. We're going to do some concatenation here just to change this average. Whenever we change a formula in the selection here, this will also change. So in order for us to do that, we will actually just reference this cell here, H5. Just change this to H5, followed by an ampersand, followed by double quotes. Sorry, I forgot the equal to sign. Need the equal to sign. Okay, so now we have average there. If I select max, changes, this also changes to max. If I change it to min, this also changes to min. Okay. So yeah, so choose is the last formula we have, which it selects a cell, or value a cell or function to perform based on a list on given number of index numbers. So the index number here, the match helps us select that particular index number. And then based on that, we do the calculation that we have in our I5, whether it's average, max, or minimum. Yeah, so I think that's the last part that we have for today. We have some exercises that we will share on our Google Drive, as well as the slides. Yeah, we'll share it on the Google Drive. But if you have any questions, you can always email Siti, myself, or Cindy. Is there anything you'd like to check before we end the session or ask?
All right. Anything, any questions? But if you have questions later, you can just email us. Yeah.
Okay, so Cindy, you want to say anything?
No, thanks.
Okay, so thank you everyone. I hope you learned something from our session, and yeah, just do get in touch if you need any help. Yeah, thank you so much. Hope to see you soon. Bye.